Hello again.
Hello. First off, I just want to say congratulations. It looked absolutely stunning on the screen. So.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and actually watching it on the screen for the first time, I really was drawn even more to the locations of the film. So I just wanted to see if you guys could talk a little bit about how you found them, the farmhouse in particular, just what that whole process was.
Yeah, well, it's actually where I grew up. So it's the farm I grew up on, and we have been in Sweden many times trying to find locations to shoot. And we realized that the farm I grew up on was the easiest place to shoot. And yeah, that's why we decided to shoot there.
And your family still lives on this farm?
Yeah, so the Rolf, the character of the farmer, is actually my father. And the guy, the younger guy, is my brother. And the creepy woman with the long hair is my mother.
Okay.
So it's a family movie.
And the other farmer who talks about building the sauna is her uncle.
Yes. Let's not forget him. Yes.
It's actually a family movie, home movie.
Yeah, very dysfunctional family movie.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Well, I guess that brings me to my next thought was about the casting, which you just answered a lot of it. I knew it was a lot of unprofessionals or non-professionals in it, but Krister, you are the only one, and obviously besides you, Andrea, that you've been in one film previously, but I want to hear a little bit about approaching your character, because I think it's a very special character in this film. He comes off as like this goofy fan, but at the same time, he could be a dangerous creeper, really. So,
yeah, I really think he's quite harmless. He wants to think he's kind of dangerous. Maybe he wants to impress on Robin Richards, but so really, I was just trying to imagine how I would want to be if I met someone that I'm a big fan of and wanted to impress, and at the same time being scary. And when I'm not that person, when he's himself, trying to be just kind of goofy and yeah.
well, that definitely comes across. And what about the role of your wife? Is that a relative of yours?
It is not. It's a friend of mine.
Of yours. Andrea's, yes.
No, she's actually a real actor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Patrick, I want to ask you then, the film kind of starts off feeling like kind of a 70s Euro sex film, really.
Euro trash sex film, yes.
Yeah. That's
That's what I was going for.
Well, you did it. But then I feel like once they move on to the farm, it becomes more of like a naturalistic kind of psycho thriller, and you kind of lose some of that feel. So I just want to hear about your approach to the film.
Well, the tone in this movie was definitely something that we spent a lot of time in the edit. There's three incredibly violent, sexual, bloody scenes that may go on the DVD, but they're not in the movie because they shifted the tone so much. So I don't know how to answer the question. Actually, it's it's just the way we experienced the different locations and went with it.
Okay. And
did that answer your question? I'm not sure. Maybe repeat the question.
No, I mean I was just wondering about the different tones.
Tonality wise.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
We just went for it, to be honest with you. Whatever felt right, we went after. The soundtrack, especially, we talked about that earlier in the afternoon, was extremely important to drive the story forward, and bridging humor with violence and some grotesque stuff is, it was definitely a little bit of a trial and error situation.
Well, as you said, I think we were actually planning on having way more sex in the movie in Sweden, but those scenes were actually cut out because the moment we felt in the edit that the moment we got to Sweden, it kind of turned into its own story. And when we started adding these sexual scenes, it didn't feel tonally right, as you said. It's like in Mallorca, where we filmed the first part of the movie, it felt like it was her world there. But the moment when she came to Sweden, it just kind of like, just cutting in between like the farmers and the sexual scenes, it just became very strange and just didn't work tonally. And that's why we lost a lot of like the sex throughout the movie at the end, I think.
However, by themselves, those scenes are incredible, and I hope you buy the DVD.
So then,
eventually.
does that mean your characters were actually supposed to connect in the farm?
There were a couple of those, mainly dream sequences that were, kind of in her subconsciousness that we had a lot of fun shooting and editing, but again, lose your babies, I suppose.
So how is that writing a character for yourself where you're kind of just like the ineffectual boyfriend who can't even...
I wish I could have cast somebody else. I am not an actor and I don't particularly enjoy it, but we couldn't afford to fly anybody who had a ponytail, I suppose, over to Mallorca. It's just, we just couldn't get Daniel Day-Lewis over there.
That's too bad, yeah. So this was also in the panel you had earlier today. You discussed, you guys both took on multiple roles, pretty much every major role in this film. So I just want to talk about a little bit how you balanced doing pretty much every job on the film.
There was no balance whatsoever. It's 1.5 years of madness, especially since the editing system is literally in our bedroom. So it's a little hard. We had to have the rule after 7:30 p.m. we're not allowed to talk about the movie anymore. We're not allowed to make any changes, and that has kind of brought the romance back into our lives. But I think like for a year it was definitely a challenge.
We had some difficult times because we had to be work partners and also partners in life. It was definitely hard. And Patrick did so much more than being a director on this movie, I feel like. I mean, I could never, and I took on a lot of parts because basically we just couldn't find people to do it. So I had to be the composer, I co-edited the movie, acted in it and produced it. We did
custom design
together, location scouting. I mean,
it's a long list.
Yeah, we did a lot of things together as well. So it's like, it's hard to know who did what, but it was definitely messy 1.5 years for sure.
There's a great video of Andrea at 4 a.m. in Sweden crying into the camera that she never ever wants to make a movie again. Let's see what's going to happen after this.
Maybe you should have put your family to work more.
Well, I put them, they helped a lot as well, actually. I mean, it's incredible how they actually came together and helped. And I think the funny thing is that nobody realized that we were making a real movie until actually the crew was on, like, my farm. And my dad was like, wait a minute, is this a real film? I'm like, yes, we're planning to make a real movie. He's like, oh, I thought it was a short. And, of course, making a feature film is a lot of work, so they had to really put aside a lot of time of their holiday. But thank God my dad is, I believe, a natural actor. He loves acting so much. And he never acted before, so he had a lot of fun. And even my mother.
Funny.
Yeah, he's great.
And he was totally fine with playing such a creepy character.
Yeah, the funny thing is he is kind of creepy. He really is, which is funny because he's my dad. But like when I was a kid, I knew he could play this part because when I was a kid, he always was this creepy. He had this alter ego where he would shave half of his face, and like one face was Mustafa and one was Dad, and then he would like talk to me with the different faces and like tell me he was gonna steal my mother, like the other guy, and it was very traumatizing. And then sometimes he would like put the lights out in the house and like chase me like in the dark, and like it was just like, but it was the most amazing time. But he's just like a funny kind of weird quirky guy, so I knew he could do this part. And the funny thing is, I told Patrick, I was like, I don't think he will put on the wedding dress because that is like just one step too far for him, maybe, I don't know. And then I just kind of like laid it out on the table, and I was like, wait a minute, and I pretended like I just came up with it. I was like, wait a minute, what if you like would put this on? It would be so creepy, right? And he was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then he just did it, and we were like, you have to do that in the movie. And he's like, oh, I should, right? Yeah. So
This wedding dress was actually bought by Andrea's mother for our real wedding, and it never made it in front
it
of
was
the
not
altar
a nice
because
dress.
it was destroyed.
My mom collects wedding dresses and dolls, so she had like 17 wedding dresses to choose
And
from.
dolls.
Yeah, and a lot of dolls. So we used it in the movie.
Okay. Well, all of these stories explain why you are drawn to the horror genre. But I want to hear from Patrick where it came from for you.
Well, same kind of situation. I also grew up in the countryside in Germany and had a pretty incredible grandfather who was a coal miner, and he basically raised me on Brothers Grimm. So anytime I see a forest, I definitely see a witch or some other creature. So I think it's just our European upbringing that lends itself towards the cozy and the creepy. Because I think it's, maybe you cannot completely call this like a horror movie. It's rather like a cozy, creepy comedy. Anyways, so it's, that definitely my grandfather was a big part of that. Brothers Grimm in front of the fire.
Okay. What about you, Krista? What did you have things that scared you growing up?
I did that on my own, pretty much. Like you said, I had no one that scared me, but I've always lived with fear and still do, and I have to cope with it every day. And when you do that, I guess in a way you get used to you get used to being scared, and in a certain way you need it. It's like this old teddy bear or something you have close to you because you have had it all your life, and that's why I like watching horror movies, I think, because that's a way to experience the fear, but I can control it. It's that's what I think. Yeah.
The movie to me seems almost more about a movie of obsessions. It's like the writer obsessed with writing a next great novel, and Booby's obsession with the writer, your father's obsession with his garden, his wife. Was that something you were trying to play on, was obsession? Or
100%. Did I tell you this yesterday? No, it's that's exactly what we were talking about.
You did not tell me that yesterday, no.
What we were talking about, yes, obsession. You got it.
Great. Unless you told me and I just forgot.
We had a long night yesterday.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. So I think what we should do is turn over to the audience and see if anyone has questions out there. I'm kind of blind, so I think there's hand in the back. Okay.
I was wondering about the costume design and how it moved from like a white sort of color palette to red. What was the inspiration behind that, and what was the driving force?
Brian De Palma.
No, well, yeah. I mean, I love Hitchcock movies and Brian De Palma, of course, and I love movies that have a little bit of a hidden theme. So we decided already, actually, when we wrote the script, that her palette would go from white to red. In like the more danger that would come to her, the more red like her outfits would be. And we would always add a little bit of red, like in her outfits. Like I think there's only a couple that don't have it, and try to. I mean, we just love the color red, and I think, especially with the houses too in Sweden, it's really interesting that they're actually red because it added to our palette that we had when we were thinking about how we wanted the movie.
We
to look
painted
like.
that house, by the way. It was yellow before.
No, that's not true.
Just
We
go
didn't
with
have
it.
that production value design. I mean, yeah.
Okay, it was red.
Yeah. So it was definitely we thought about it and we just kind of yeah. For sure.
Does that answer the question? Cool.
Okay. Any others out there? Right here?
Just have a quick question about the last shot with the sheep. What did you guys do to get them to run right into that place and stay still for so long?
3 days in that field.
It's the truth. Like that shot, it's my favorite shot in the whole movie. And it's so crazy because it was not 3 days. I think it was like a week. It was like the craziest week I've ever had in my life. Because like I don't know anything. I grew up on a farm, but I don't know anything about sheep. And like we were like running and chasing the sheep the first couple of days, and like trying to like, okay, so if we go this way, they'll come this way. But like it took us days to figure out like how to move these sheep, and like the only way that worked was literally walking slowly behind them until they're not scared, but they just start walking by themselves, like kind of like, okay, we're walking this way, and then put the paper there and just hope that they'll see it, because they're actually very like, they are, what is it called when you are?
Driven to...
No, curious.
White.
They're very curious actually, and like we noticed that things we would put on the field they would actually sniff and like care about. So, but this particular shot that we got was like that Patrick had like freaked out. He couldn't like do it anymore. He's given up like 7 days into shooting these sheep. We were like, we're not gonna get the shot. Let's just,
That was all second unit.
There was only
basically
me and
being
him
her
by then.
and me.
Yeah, everybody else had left long ago. They were like, we're not doing this. And he left and like ran off and like was gonna get something. And I was there alone with the sheep. And suddenly I just pressed play and I saw them just walking into the shot. And I see Patrick down there just like jumping silently, like, yay! And I'm just watching them like sniff the page and just stay there, and then they just left. And I was like, what just happened? Like, oh my God, like 7 days, what is happening? And then, yeah, we're so happy we got it.
Would it be easier with doing them in CGI?
Maybe, I mean, at that point, well, yeah.
The bees are all CGI, by the way, and the turtle is too.
Yeah.
The sheep are the only thing that we got in real life.
Yeah, no, but it's hard working with animals for sure. Like, I will not recommend it to anybody. Turtles are easy, but...
The tortoise was perfect.
Yeah, it was
Really
doing
was.
exactly what we wanted it
Total
to.
champ.
Yeah,
It's worth it though. Everyone wants to see animals in movies.
it's true, yeah.
The turtle is a family member, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I had, like, it's actually a 30-year-old turtle that is my turtle that I grew up with. And it will live until 80, so maybe it will, survive me and whatever. It's a great turtle, but I miss it.
And the chickens are actually from it. Her dad is a real farmer in real life. Like, it's basically he's playing himself essentially.
Yeah.
So the chicken and the dog is ours.
But the problem with the animals is, like, for example, we had a whole scene in the movie. We have a great dog. She's the pit bull in the movie. And she was supposed to, like, help me get out of the, when I'm tied up in the chair, because she loves chasing sticks. So we were gonna, like, oh, if she does this, and the moment she was on camera, she refused to do anything. And she, like, didn't do anything. She was lying down, like, refused to chase a ball or a stick or anything. So we had to cut it out and rewrite the
Stage fright,
scene.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
It was tough.
It was really hard. We had to give up because, the days were going by and we couldn't keep shooting her trying to get a stick. So we had to give it up, unfortunately.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else out there? All the way in the back?
Congratulations on the movie. It was great, a lot of fun. I just want to know who your inspirations were. You mentioned the Palma, and I sort of want to hear from you who inspires you, and also what are your favorite scary movies?
Favorite scary movie, definitely Jaws, and Rosemary's Baby is close second, I suppose. Inspirations, Hitchcock, De Palma, Polanski, we do love, although there's some controversy at the moment around him. But I do love his movies. I think while we were prepping the film, we were just watching a lot of old Hitchcock movies that inspired us, yeah. Those three, I want to say. Some Bergman, tiny bit of Tarkovsky maybe. There is actually a 3-hour version of this movie where it's all just Swedish classical choir music. That was our first rough cut, 3.5 hours Swedish classical music. It is an amazing experience.
Very slow.
Maybe next year we come back.
Yeah. But also...
I have a very, very strong producer who said, no fucking way.
No way.
This is going to be an 82-minute movie and that's it.
Yeah. Well, also Kubrick. I mean, like, I think The
Kubrick.
Shining is a big...
The Shining was big, yeah.
We love Kubrick, but we had a period where before this film we watched Brian De Palma like so much, and I think that inspired some parts of the movie, and Hitchcock as well. Also, another inspiration for this film was actually Misery, because we love that film. And it's about a writer, and it's a little bit, of the hostage situation there as well.
And what was that movie that the guy of Village Voice mentioned, which I'd never seen, The House on Straw Hill?
Yeah.
Never seen that film. And apparently he thought we made a remake of that.
Well,
not the case.
We'll watch it.
You can watch it for free on YouTube and compare them. There's nothing to do with one or the other, but The House on Straw Hill. Yeah. Anyways, we're working on Return to Blood Paradise as we speak. It's happening.
Not happening.
Children of Blood Paradise, though.
Not happening either.
Okay.
Yeah, who would be in it?
You're gonna be in it for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And Swedish Ethan Hawke.
And Booby's child. Actually,
Oh,
funny
yeah.
enough,
Booby spawn.
the actress was pregnant right after the movie finished, and she gave birth. So maybe it is Booby's child.
It's
we
actually a
don't know.
documentary.
Yeah.
No comment.
Okay. Anyone else out there with a question? I guess up there. Yes.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the script writing process, like what was coming to your mind. I know you mentioned it's a movie about obsessions, just kind of like how you put things together.
Well, I mean, we've been writing together for 6 years now. So the moment we met, we shared a passion, and it was film. And at the time, I had finished studying acting at Lee Strasberg. So I was not a filmmaker, but I was studying screenwriting. And we started writing together, and I've been working on a movie in Sweden for like 8 years maybe. I wanted to film a film in my hometown for a long time. And in a way, this movie is like, it developed from that first script in a way, but it's completely different, because it's the only thing that's similar is that it's my farm. But when we started working together, we set out to do something that we could, because we have 2 other scripts that are much bigger movies, bigger budgets that we want to make, but it was hard as first-time filmmakers to get funding for those. So when we sat down together and we were like, okay, it's going to be very hard, it's going to take many years to get funding for these 2 projects, why don't we try to do something we can do for very little money in my hometown? And so when we started writing the script, we actually wrote it according to my farm, maybe family members being actors, because those are the people I get for free.
But that wasn't part of the plan at the beginning.
No, well, for this script it was, of course. I mean, maybe you
did we have your dad in mind right away? Maybe.
I did, but maybe,
Yeah.
you weren't aware.
You blew us out of the water in the audition.
Yeah, he was fooled into this. But and then we started developing, and we were just thinking what can we do? What kind of movie can we do on a farm like this? And then the story developed through that, and
I think the main goal was to create a world. Like if you are on that particular farm, we spent literally every summer about a month or 2 on that farm, and there is a certain kind of vibe. Like I say, it's kind of cozy and kind of creepy, and the mind starts wandering rather quickly. Like the stuff that you see her character basically do is something, eating eggs and looking out the window. We kind of do that every morning while we're there, and then her dad goes into the barn.
Watching my dad, yeah.
And he does some strange things there. So it was it's almost like a slice of life in the north of Sweden. That's how the script writing was. I think we wrote that thing in 3-4 weeks. So it was very, very quick.
Yeah, the first draft was extremely quick compared to our other screenplays, which took years.
We went there for a month, wrote it, and then happened to stumble across this amazing theater group where Swedish Ethan Hawke was part of, and just got it done. It was from writing to making it was a 2 months period. The post-production was long because we had a lot of footage
and a lot of improvisation.
And our 3-hour Tarkovsky cut.
Yeah.
And was it all written? It was all scripted, or was there any improvisation in it?
A lot of it, but there was. Yes, there was a lot of improv for sure, but especially by Rolf, who's not an actor, so he just goes off. The whole the
Okay.
bed, I built the bed myself. It's cozy. I think he definitely improv that.
And he just said it himself, and I'm like, what the is
What
he
about the-
saying? I'm like, whoa.
What about the fika line? Was that?
I think it was
There was-
probably something he came up with as well.
No, that was
That part
no,
makes
that
me
that, that
laugh
was
every
definitely
time.
scripted. Actually, the last act in the movie was completely different.
It was supposed to be different.
we had too little time and no money whatsoever, but we had a huge action sequence where he chases her through the forest on a tractor, and there's a bunch of booby traps, and it basically became Rambo at one point.
But the problem was time. It was
Yeah.
really because like the cinematographer had to go, and we were just running behind, so we couldn't go out.
Yeah,
And also
so-
the mosquitoes are terrible.
That's a huge challenge. The mosquitoes in
Yeah.
the north of Sweden are vicious.
We had to literally cut a scene because we couldn't shoot it because it was just too many mosquitoes, and like it's not possible. Like you cannot be out there.
You take 2 slices of toast, flap them together, and you have a sandwich, literally. Mosquito sandwich. True story.
Okay, we probably have time for another if anyone else out there has one.
Don't be scared. Ask us anything.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, there's a hand.
What's the explanation of the woman who's depicted in the photograph as his wife? As far as her demise or her significance or to be revealed in part two?
You mean narratively, like in the story, or that's actually her stepmother essentially in real life?
Yeah,
or-
and she is his wife in the story. Yeah.
in real life, her stepmother. In the movie, it's the wife.
How she passes away.
We're not going to tell you.
Wait, yeah, well, it's never explained. Like what happened. It's up for you guys to figure that out. Like what happened to her, really.
In the 3-hour cut, you really get the explanation of it. You see her die.
No, that's not true. But
It is.
Well, I wanted to ask just what's next for this film? Do you know? I mean, I know this is the first time it's been screened, but do you have any?
I mean, that's one thing. We made the last change for this movie 3 days ago in Los Angeles. We had no idea we were going to come here this quick because we were going to premiere the movie in Europe originally, and Laura was snoopy and kind enough to find it. I don't know how and when, but it happened. So we are very happy to be here.
Random luck.
But I think Barcelona is our next official step now. There's probably Barcelona is the next time we're going to screen this movie on a big screen. This is the first time we've seen this on the big screen. Looks pretty good.
It looks beautiful. It does. Before we wrap up, just going to ask if there are any more questions. Oh,
One more.
If your father or brother find it weird that you're like running around naked on the set, you know, like that's uncomfortable for them.
It's Sweden.
yeah, I was just gonna say that it's Sweden, so skinny dipping is kind of normal, which I know it's weird, but people actually go to the sauna naked together, and families do it too, and it's super awkward if you're American. But it's normal there. I mean, my brother didn't actually. We shot him separately when I'm running across the field naked, so he didn't actually see me run naked during that shot. But yeah, I mean, it must be a Swedish thing. I don't know. I guess.
It's a Euro thing.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Germany is also like.
You're running around naked in the summer all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of. I mean, of course, it's awkward because like it's you know, and also when you're acting with your father, it's certain things can get really weird quickly. When he was like force feeding me, I'm like, oh my god, this is so bizarre. Like it's my father, it's not an actor, and it becomes very like intimate because he's doing it, and it's just like your father's not supposed to do that. It feels like.
But he
you know?
also really got into it. I think he enjoyed it.
But
There was
that
a lot of
that was yeah.
post-puberty anger that he had built up. He could have gone on. I mean, this guy was into it.
Honestly, I just think he's a good actor. He really just loved to act. I mean, he really get into it. And it scared me a little bit. At times when he was in character as the woman, it honestly made me a little freaked out. Like it was weird at times, and yeah.
He really wanted to feed you your finger, I think.
I think he was very excited about that.
I think so. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, oh, I guess there is one more.
What happened to the finger?
It's a very good question. It's still in the barn, rotting slowly.
She left it behind.
She left it behind, yes.
Yeah.
There was no time to wrap it up and sew it back on. But good point, actually.
Well, that's a good note to leave on. The bloody finger. Thank you guys very much for being here.
Thank you so much.
It really was our
Thank you, guys.
pleasure to have the premiere here. It really was.
Thank you.